Wisconsin's 2027 football recruiting class, which has been absolutely hitting on all cylinders recently, has a legitimate chance to be one of Wisconsin's best classes ever. Let's talk about it. Scary Russ is back. And if you are watching this podcast right now, it is almost a certainty that you've been following these first two recruiting visit weekends that Wisconsin has had, where they have absolutely been cleaning up. And, there have been classes in recent years, 2024 comes to mind, maybe less so in 25, where I remember the zeitgeist was sort of, this is the class. This is the one we're going to remember. And I don't want to denigrate any of those classes because some really good players came out of those. There's just something about this 2027 class that feels different. And they're all scary like and a subscription before we get started. Really appreciate it. But you may recall starting a couple months ago, Wisconsin, Fickle and his assistant coaches and his scouting director, Nate Letton, they basically started with the let's build a big wall around the state of Wisconsin. I mean, we had some inkling that was going to happen. I know Fickle was visiting a lot of the schools that maybe had been, for lack of a more gentle word, neglected early in his tenure. And it was pretty clear that, especially in a bumper crop 2027 class in state in Wisconsin, that the first priorities were going to be from the Badger State. So you may remember they went out and got a bunch of dudes: Coors Loken, Cole Ryder, Ballinger twins. I don't leave any names out, but it's just a lot of really good players. And then the next move, as you may recall, was to go to the state of Indiana and grab four-star Badger legacy quarterback Jack Sorgi, sturdy, tall, strong-arm kid, because every quarterback or every class needs a good quarterback. And then once that was done, and the wheels were spinning in the background, and the visits and the contacts and all that stuff were being formulated. But then it became, as we started approaching on-campus visit spring into summer, we were going to start reaching out and seeing Fickle and his staff start bringing in a national recruiting class, to start addressing positions like safety and corner, wide receiver, some of these other places they had not been hitting as hard early in the spring. And that is exactly what they have done. I mean, last weekend was a massive, gigantic weekend. Early in the week, this past week, we got Mekhi Williams, who is, depending on your recruiting service, the number one player in this class by way of ranking, a consensus four-star, real high national prospect, 107 nationally, which is Ohio State territory for that guy. And they keep bringing in more guys. Last week, Jai Jones, four-star receiver from Chandler, Arizona. By the way, shout out to Arizona for producing a bunch of really, really good prep football players that Wisconsin is now adding to their recruiting classes. But they just keep adding dudes. Darren Graham, Deal Harris, number one player in Montana, and a wide receiver. But my overarching theme is that this class has a lot going for it. You never know until you see the kids on the field. You're not sure what the class is going to look like with attrition by the time we have National Signing Day in December. But presuming you hold most or all of these dudes, you can see some themes starting to emerge. And the kid, and I'll talk more about him in a minute, from this past weekend, and this is no shot at anyone else that they have gotten commitments from, because this is a really strong series of weeks here. Yazin Zion. He's a gigantic defensive lineman, 6'5", 270. He'll be probably closer to 300 by the time he comes into Madison. And again, I've said this before, I'm not your quintessential tape watcher in the sense that I don't have the scouting skills that some of these other guys do, where I can see a certain thing and find these little aspects of their game and see and make predictions on that projects. What I can do, though, is, as a longtime football fan, is I can see someone in their high school film and know when they look a little different. especially against a reasonably solid level of competition as you get in the Phoenix area. Zion, and I understand, and 247 is who we've been kind of relying on for most of these. Nick Osen does a great job for them. It's not like I'm dissing on three, and there's other good recruiting services, but Zion's only a 3-star for them. I think they're going to fix that one. I think that's a rare mistake there. ESPN has him as a 4, and other services has him on 3 has him as a 4, I believe. This kid looks like the kids used to look like when Alvarez was picking these guys, these Antaj Hawthorne type dudes that maybe not diamonds in the rough, because this guy's offer sheet was next level. That's another thing you got to remember. Stars are important. How they look on film, important. But look at those offer lists, guys. This guy had all kinds of blue bloods on the offer list, and you'll love to see it. And so when Wisconsin's going and plucking a guy out of Arizona, which, yes, it's a hotbed of recruiting right now, but it has typically not been our primary recruiting grounds. And you are beating the final, we thought the two biggest ones, OU and LSU. Hey, tough luck for LSU. That's a couple of tough L's that they've taken to the Badgers over the last 10 days or so. But remember this name. That is one that I just am really excited about for the Badgers getting. But anyway, you can tune into the likes of the Bucky Report or Ryan Herrings or some of these other great podcasts who look at film and use moving pictures on their graphics and things like that. But hey, I threw something up there. It's my first one with a graphic besides my picture or someone talking. But I'm showing you what you have probably already seen. This is the 247 Sports as of right this second, as we're heading into Monday morning. Wisconsin is the number 13th ranked recruiting class in the 2027 cycle in 247. The composite is 17, pretty darn good. And you can see Ohio State ahead of us and Oregon below us, and I think it's safe to say that both of those will end up in the top 5 by the time we get to December. But for right now, the Badgers are just doing an incredible job. I don't know how, I always worry about diving into hyperbole, and I battled on the message boards and the Twitters a little bit with people that are like, these don't even count till pen's to paper. And then once pen is to paper, they don't count again until we see if they stay. And then if they stay, they don't count again until they're an impact player in the Big Ten. Okay, look, there's probably a lot of truth to what they're saying. But I am saying in early June of 2026, if Wisconsin is having what looks to be a potentially all-timer recruiting run, potentially, I'll get to that in a moment. I want to make sure that's in there in all bold. It's okay to be happy about it, guys. I mean, I'm not here promising that Zion, the kid I just talked about from Arizona, is going to be the next J.J. Watt. I'm not saying that. He may never play for Wisconsin. He may come in and someone swoops in and takes him at the 11th hour. We don't know. He could Amari Latimer us for all we know. But the vibe I have with this particular group, and again, I'm not trying to seem overly optimistic here, but it seems like even with some previous classes that have been pretty solid, if not really good on paper, the buy-in and camaraderie in this class, and this is not just me observing a Twitter post or a retweet or something. I have had the opportunity to speak to some of these kids, had several of them on my podcast, and I feel like some of this stuff you can't fake. Okay. This feels real and tangible, and like so many things in life, it's about momentum. So if you get a bunch of kids, almost all the top 10 from what could be the best recruiting class in the state of Wisconsin for quite some time, and they're all in. And then you go out and you get your quarterback, and he's all in. And then you go get some of these other dudes, and they're all in. And then other kids go, hey, Isaac Miller said yes. That was pretty cool. And Jai Jones said yes, the Badgers, and Makai Williams said yes, and Kingston Allen said yes. Why don't I say yes too? I mean, these guys were cool on the visit. We had a good time. Madison, I visited in May, early June, It's gorgeous. It must always be like that in Madison. I hope they didn't tell them that. But what I'm seeing is, as this class has filled out, and I think there's going to be a few more guys. I mean, stay tuned to your Nick Osens for things like this, and Seamus Roars and some of these other guys and Dylan Graffs. But I feel like we're going to not be done here. But I'm looking through this. It's now up to 20 guys, and I'm looking through this list, and there is not. I don't calling a recruit dead weight. I don't mean it like that, but there's not a kind of reach into the bag and just grab one out to fill a class. So there isn't a single kid in this class right now that gives me that vibe. Look, if you go by 247, their lowest rated kid is Nathan Jones out of Desert Edge down there in Arizona too. And if you have watched the film on this guy, he's shot out of a cannon. He has the look, as far as a recruit, of a lot of those Wisconsin Badger linebackers you'd see under Paul Chryst. No, I'm not promising that Nathan Jones is going to be the next Nick Herbig or any of these other guys. I'm just telling you that he has that look, and he is the lowest ranked guy. It seems like an icily, for a class that's getting a little bigger than we thought it would be, it seems like an icily efficient class for a lot of reasons. You're getting the high-end type players as far as the stars. You're getting the guys with all of the offers. You're getting the kids who look real on tape against good competition. And you're getting dudes at every position. Yeah, it's not a kicker or punter, guys. Don't worry about that. But you're getting a couple wide receivers, a couple corners. You're getting offensive linemen. You're getting edge guys, two of them. You're getting interior defensive linemen. You got one running back right now, one quarterback. That could change as far as running back goes. We may be done with both those positions right now. And you could do a lot worse at those positions than Kingston Allen and Jack Sorgi. So as I'm looking over this, and by the way, there's another thing that I like about this class. You have a bunch of guys that look, none of them are college football players right now. They all have senior year to go in high school. But you got guys you could say, yeah, maybe that guy right away plays as a freshman. That would not shock me. Okay. Yazine Zion plays freshman year, not a shock. Wouldn't be a shock to me in the least. Okay. Kors Loken comes in and gets some PT his true freshman year. Ain't going to shock me. But Kai Williams, he's got to put some weight on, but yeah, watch him on the field. Wouldn't be shocking if he played. But then you have the guys that you know are going to be developmental in the sense that these guys are going to come in with all the skills and upside in the world, but they're going to take a little more time. Darren Graham is one of those guys. He is, an edge guy out of the Chicagoland area, and he's one of those dudes that get him in the program, bulk up a little bit, work on the speed, some of that. But the guy just looks the part of a kid who can grow in the program. Obviously, Sorgi, he's not going to come in and play his freshman year, right? Unless something has gone horrifically wrong. But he's the kind of guy you could see playing down the road. Okay. And there's a really nice mix of players like that. And as you know, Wisconsin has a youngish offensive line still this season. And that's one of the areas that we're going to want to see a lot of progression in from the guys on the team. But these offensive linemen they're bringing in, like the Mallingers, Ethan McIntosh is a big one. And then probably the clubhouse leader of that freshman class is Cole Ryder. Just an enormous kid. He's already has literally his NFL size already. I mean, the weight training and stuff will come. But so there are dudes there in that very next group of kids. Once the kids that are in the room right now are establishing themselves, you're restocking that cupboard. I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm not going to go, as I said, I'm dropping some names here. I'm not going to go through this entire class. But what I am seeing is position-wise, talent-wise, upside-wise, development-wise, it would not shock me in the least if this class ends up being a special one. Okay? And I don't mean a special one like, few good players. Some guys leave, some guys stay. Who knows? I'm talking about some real legitimate stars and then a bunch of bedrock stalwarts who get major playing time. If Luke Fickell has the season that we think that Luke Fickell, or we hope that Luke Fickell will have this year, and is then back in 2028 with an opportunity to develop the guys that are already in the room further than they already are, and then take this class several of which will, I'm sure, come in next spring, but whenever they get to town, and, you know, get them into the mix in their own way. I'm just super excited and hopeful for the opportunity to see a bunch of these dudes playing at Camp Randall. And I would love to hear what y'all think. And maybe there'll be a deep dive on some of these guys in a future episode. I've done a few of those already. I mean, I had a deep dive just my last podcast when Mekhi Williams committed. But I'm telling you, I think this class has a chance to be a program altering kind of class. The kind of class that sets the tone for the 2028 class, the kind of class that sets the tone in some ways for the team you're going to see on the field in 2026. I'm not saying that this Wisconsin Badger team that's on the field this coming fall is going to, oh man, we got all these great 2027 guys. Let's go play some ball now. But it all feeds into the culture, the environment, the momentum, the upside, the faith in the coaching staff. And I am feeling about as good here in early June as I thought humanly possible when that season ended up on the turf in Minneapolis last November. Anyway, put your comments in. Love to hear what you got to say. Hopefully there's more commits we can talk about. But Scary Alvarez is hyped. Scary Alvarez is also